Hello, this is Rubix, and I am going to be continuing reading my story, Gamer's Guide to Ever After. As usual, the previous recordings will be in the description below. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it. So, chapter 7, when the readers gets to what I'm looking at right now, they will see that the chapter title is in fact in binary code, and under the assumption that they were to convert, the chapter 7 title would be called It Hurts. Okay. The Dragon siblings could feel River's intense gaze prickle their skin as they marched along the castle for what felt like hours. After they'd left the room, they were both thankful that she didn't discover Pablo or Loki. Of course, neither of them were dumb enough to think that aloud this time, and in their eyes, we switch over to Glitch's perspective. Man, why'd they capture half of the Mario mushroom? Along the open view of this gargantuan window, they spotted the en masse of Paradiso seated along the grand stage, coupled with an ensemble of chitter-chatter. Had they not lost track of time earlier, the Joy-Con siblings would have already initiated their plan to leave Paradiso. It Is What It Is begins to play. How could they ever regret saying goodbye to the old man one last time? There was an unspoken truth the two of them knew when it came to Kronos. That man was more of a father figure to them than the god of destruction ever was, even before Blank died. So, why couldn't they simply turn tail and leave now? Well, as it turns out, all residents of the kingdom are expected to attend the one mandatory ceremony honoring the loss of their two incarnates. The majority of security stood post at today's ceremony, already setting great conditions for a seamless getaway. However, there was still one issue facing them: Loki's intrusion last night. With the entire kingdom being on high alert now that there were rumors of a marigold vacating somewhere in the dark, every indoor hallway and outdoor living space of the castle had been festered with vigilantes, and the Joy-Con siblings had seen a gazillion of them bend over for Madame Envy as they made their way to the plaza. Anyone who was dallying about in the halls during the ceremony were bound to be investigated using the realm's finest, truth-telling spell, Zone of Truth. Regardless, they had to wait for the right opportunity. But when the time was right, the Joy-Con siblings would give Nova and Meadow the green light so that they could offset the alarms and attract the remainder of them to one location. So in this part of the document, the reader would see throughout this chapter that there's just these glitch particles and everything is starting to look wrong in a way, but yeah, just wanted to point that out. So, time skipping here a bit. A smooth surface welcomed the Joy-Con siblings' feet as they stepped underneath an arc. Inevitably, they became exposed to the millions of voices gathered here today in the outdoor plaza behind the palace, and talking galore begins to play. Revere Lilts, seems we've reached our destination. Now then, be good children and don't dawdle off from the front row, where I can't see your beautiful faces. You don't want to miss this year's spectacular announcement. Lifting her dress, she begins to ascend those heavenly stairs as the Joy-Con siblings. Huh? As the two of us march to our seats. Jeez, I feel like I got an intense migraine just now. It wasn't hard to notice how anxious the air felt as we became submerged with the audience. There was a break-in last night. Should we really be having this ceremony? Do you think the intruder's hiding somewhere in the crowd? Of course the infernal bastard had the audacity to cause a ruckus before an important event like this. Loki's intrusion seemed to be on everyone's mind. and the cushion nestled my bosom as my sister sank beside me. I studied the look of distress on their face as they slump against the wooden part of their chair. I placed a hand over my sister as I lean in for their ear and reassure. I'll be alright, As. Let's recoup up with Nova and Meadow as soon as they hold the banquet. Then we can fetch Loki and Pablo and bust out of this joint. Esther closes their eyes and places their frigid fingers around my warm hands. Holy shit, sis. Has anyone ever told you your hands are freaking cold? I pondered. My sister bobs their head and airily concedes. You're right. We should reach out to Meadow and Nova after. Speak of the devil. A plump figure waddles over my foot and sits on the left of Esther as we greet in unison. OMG, hey. The reader will then see this graphic. Folding her arms against her knees, she leans in and murmurs, hey. She was adorned in black attire just as we were. I studied the knit in her nervous brows and the gravity became heavy. I couldn't understand why she was sitting with us rather than her mom and pop, but I assumed that she must have persuaded her way out of it. Whatever the reason was, I'm just glad she's here. Where's Meadow? I began before promptly remembering that she was almost always stationed elsewhere during extravagant events like these. Never mind, I cower. Nova nods her head slightly. She leans past Aster and begins. Okay, so about the plan. I've informed Meadow before we switch posts, but we're getting this movie the fuck out of here during the banquet. We'll come up with some bullshit lie like, oh, we just need to use the powder room, and then we'll set off the little gift we left the gods. They'll never see it coming. This sends shivers down my spine. In my line of sight, I saw my sister nodding confidently as I mimicked their body language out of habit. You still couldn't wrap your head around those two idiots risking their lives for you and your sister. I scanned the grand stage that towered over 15 feet above us. My eyes became drawn towards those screen blobs capturing live views of the stage, but from different angles. Those illusions must have been manifested by a couple of Hyacinths, the goddess of balance's demi-bloom. On that note, her powers should solely be illusions as well. How does she even manage to incur the power to read minds? On occasions like these, the Envy Incarnate has made an exception for people to manipulate their illusions in order to create the perfect atmosphere for her audience. And neighboring those illusions, my curiosity led me to those mysterious structures in the sky. Rather, they were floating balconies reserved for the grandiose gods of Paradiso. I won't cap. I tend to forget that there were other higher beings than just the seven. I turned my gaze skyward and made out the scarce gleam of an invisible dome. Somebody must be concentrating the dome to block out those weird rain clouds that visit every year. Or at this time of year. I surveyed the back of the stage and spotted the 7 thrones, unique to each incarnate that inherited them. 5 of those seats were empty, 4 of them for unfortunately obvious reasons. Lucas and Kane are deceased, 2 empty thrones. La Muerte was still in Inferno. That makes 3 empty seats. Of course, he wasn't in attendance. He's been slaughtering our kind. 4 empty. That witch was making her way up the stairs. 5. There's... oh, stars. There she is. And the reader will then see this graphic. Mitama, the goddess of guidance, and the illustrious Lust Incarnate. Sheesh. How long has it been since she made a public appearance? 6. And that just leaves... wait, where's... Brother, where's Uncle Kronos? I heard to my left. I stretched my lips to the side of my face and suggested, do you think it's because of his, condition? I could barely hear Nova sigh to our left, and I leaned over to see what she had to say as she began. I heard from one of the staff that the old man, his origin is acting up again. so he's staying at the infirmary today. On that note, how did your visit go? And, Rain, Rain, Go Away begins to play. The ensemble of voices began to dwindle out of earshot. The three of them spin their attention back to the stage and see the goddess of balance. Theodo's there, poised, her presence commanding, as she waits for the ensemble of voices to simmer into transient silence. The atmosphere begins to darken as a grand spotlight shines over the stage, and glimmering under the world's eye, she rubs the side of her cheek as a microphone becomes visible, and her radiant voice becomes a quadruple times louder than usual. Beauties of Paradiso, she booms with sickening zeal. Thank you for gracing our annual ceremony. The audience erupts in applause and cheers as she patiently waits for their excitement to subside. Mindful of the throne composed entirely of clocks, she glances back to her audience and continues. I am afraid our beloved Father Time won't be able to attend today's ceremony due to health issues. As for my husband, he's still on his mission, purging the universe of evil and all that jazz. She fills the audience's ears with her light-hearted chuckles and wistful sighs. You know how saving the world goes. Like a broken record, the audience also shares a warm laugh for Madam's snide remark. But fret not, she resumes, for me and Mitama will continue this momentous occasion in their honor. Up above, Mitama fluttered her fingers and beamed at this warm mention. As all of you are aware, stars, I'd hope you be aware. It's been 70 years since the prideful king of space, Locus, and our beloved gluttony incarnate, Greater Lord Kane, have sacrificed themselves so that we Paradisans may live on. Were it not for their sacrifice... Then her beauteous laughter becomes resonant in our ears. Who am I kidding? Were it not for Kane's sacrifice after Locust's insolence, Origin would continue to blight this perfect empire we've created. Every year, Revere made a spectacle out of what the goddess space did. If I listened closely, I swore I could hear several groans in the crowd surrounding us. It was likely Locust's demi-blooms, carnations, embarrassed for what their god did. I couldn't help but sympathize with them. A little. Overhead, you hear a handful of gods booming away with the envy incarnate insatiably. Like it was a dizzying swirl of laughter from every corner. A shiver travels down your spine as you come to realize something. No, that couldn't be. Has she been selling our blood to the gods of Paradiso? Is that what the Guardian meant by filthy elites? The atmosphere felt like we were in a snow globe, despite these layers of black bundling me tight. My eyes laid upon the lust incarnate, Mitama, who'd been sitting with one leg crossed over her knee in her stormy throne of clouds, as she fixed the world with a smile. And finally, Revere continues. We gather here today to honor Kane. Without hesitance, the audience harmoniously pitches in. For a world without her benevolence is a legacy stripped of its creativity. She lets those words subside in everyone's hearts and minds for a breathless moment, before her misty gaze wanders off in our direction. It was too hard to tell, but you swore that you and your sister were the targets of her pristine glare. And an announcement of a lifetime begins to play. Now then, she begins, I'm sure you lot are dying to know why we've continued the proceedings despite the horrific conditions of last night. On this day, I would like to commemorate the 12 guardians who laid down their lives defending our palace against the intrusion. Her wistful eyes wound back to the curtains as she snapped her fingers twice. Then, 12 individual screens begin to glimmer overhead and illuminate the face of each guard Loki had killed. Their first and last names are maintained beneath their respective frames, and Revere's gloves dig inside her bra as she reveals a note card and begins. Terry Allen, Demi Bloom. Alex Frightner, Demi Bloom. Riley Yang, Reincarn. Her voice became a distorted blur. I think I recognized the first two Guardians. They were the ones who revealed all those nasty things about our parents. Hang on, didn't Loki let Alex survive? And ending her recitation, Revere then declares, "May their souls be laid to rest, and all the misdeeds in the mortal plane be forgiven for when they rebirth in our beautiful paradise." On that note, and suddenly, Revere's intense gaze shifts directly back to me and Aster. And as she elegantly strides down the catwalk, reaching the end of the stage, she snaps her fingers towards the audience. Unexpectedly, a spotlight illuminates you and your sister, and she nearly causes you to pee your pants. What is she doing? He thought amidst the dread. Ladies and gentlemen, and everything not in between, please give a warm welcome to mine and Greta Lakane's beloved kids. In your mind, you frantically pondered. She's never done this before, as her heart raced uncontrollably. I could feel my fingers laced tightly around Aster's as the warmth of my hand bled and became as cold as space. I understand why your hands are always so cold. Reluctantly, my fearful gaze met my sister's, and the reader would then see this graphic. Nobody clapped for us. Maybe they were equally dumbfounded by this sudden invitation, but I knew this is far from the truth. This whole realm, they saw us as nothing but the last surviving cure of origin. The rain dancing along the dome becomes louder and louder. A figure rises from their seat and kneels before us. It was Nova. She places a hand of empathy upon my frigid hands and bobs her head, telling us, "Everything's gonna be okay." And in the sparkle text, the whole realm's watching. There's no way her ass would pull anything dirty on them, right? Thank you, Nova. And thawing from stage fright, Esther grasps my hand as the two of us begin free floating 15 feet into the air. Gracing the stage, we hastily arrived at Madame Envy's side and looked out into the crowd. Reuniting with us, she places a hand over my jittery shoulder as I flinch sporadically. Raising her voice to rally a command, she invites, "Please, give it up for Glitch and Asta." This time, the world's claps and cheers go AWOL. Deep inside of my writhing gut, I knew it was all for show. "Mom?" I murmur hazily, searching for even a hint of sympathy in her eyes. "What are we doing here?" Her eyes met with mine for a second before she peered back to her audience. "This humble kingdom is built off the virtues of sacrifice, loyalty, and honesty. It is in our blood as Demi Bloom that we must uphold these morals like the air we breathe. I stand before you as your overseer to fulfill a promise I made to our gluttony 7 decades ago. I've been nothing but loyal and transparent to you all to ensure the longevity of our kingdom so that we may see light even in these dark times. But here's the ugly truth. The sun cannot shine upon every corner of the world. There will always be those who hide their knives behind lies, while another innocent falls prey. That being said, wouldn't you all agree that we must never betray each other's trust? Or if we can't trust other Demi Bloom, who can we trust? Of course, spit your shit indeed, madam." Yes, I think so." Good. Spinning around, she pivots a glance at me and my sister. "Glitch? Esther? Darlings, pray tell, don't look. Do either of you have anything to say about our little intruder?" She knows. No. Why would we know anything? I deflect, trying my fucking hardest not to crack underneath her pressure. Her features are shrouded in dismay, as she glances to the side and ushers for somebody to come forth. No. And the reader will then see this graphic. Dragged on stage with a dagger held to his eyes was none other than the Prince of Death. His face bruised, his cheeks swollen. He looks hurt. He is hurt. This is all my fault. Fellow Demi-Bloom, Revere announces with this deadly enamoration in her voice. Fear not, for my guardians have expertly located the marigold that found its way into our kingdom. Mind you, a murderer that slaughtered 12 of our guardians in cold blood, hospitalized another, and has been discovered hiding away in the Joy-Con siblings' room. Loki spats out a sprinkle of orange blood. Ah, he taunts. Lo siento, bruja. I don't even know who the wide-eyed kids you call children even are. Ah, Revere Fons. I had a feeling you'd say that. Son of Muerte. That unprecedented title drop causes a weirdness in the air to stir amongst the world. The longer I stood here, cold and frozen, I was afraid that my fingers and toes would snap off. Son of the Sloth Incarnate? What the fuck is that kid doing here? Holy shit, it really is him. The Sloth Incarnate has a son? Why he kinda... Shouldn't he be trapped inside Inferno with his mom? Snap off, one by one. A veiled figure begins to step on stage. Her deathly familiar aroma fills my lungs. It's Matron Jew, the shrine maiden that severs her back open every week. She reaches into her sleeve, cautious not to reveal what she concealed to the live feed. She quietly strides past me and my sister as she bestows her goddess with an orange eye. Revere glances skyward and swirls an index as the live stream begins to dwindle out of the world's sight. Stepping closer to Loki with an impatient and calculated air, she threatens, "My, I'd certainly hate to use this against you." What is the goddess doing? I don't know. I can't see from here. My eyes darted for my sister, hopeless, and then to the goddess of guidance, praying that she'd do something, anything. Mitama held that same complacent expression, and yeah, the reader would then see this graphic once more. Mitama held that same complacent expression, staring off into space-time continuum. There's something off about her. Fuck, why isn't she doing anything? She has to do something! Breaking under the pressure, I frantically cower. Please, don't do it! Yes, it was me. It was me! I hit him in our room. In the distance, I could hear my own voice emit from a microphone, hidden somewhere on stage as a sea of gasps washed over the crowd. How could he? We've been safe keeping a killer? I guess the rumor surrounding them checks out. A delighted gasp emits from this horrible woman who calls herself Revere as she loads. My, now is it so hard to just come forward with the truth, Starshine? Why'd you lie? There was no reason to. Unless you knew from the very beginning what you did was wrong. No, don't listen to them. It was all my idea. Don't punish my brother. Esther hollers at the top of their lungs. Revere's heels tap along the stage as she strolls closer to my sister and cups their chin. My dear sweet Esther, of course you'd be cunning enough to pull such a feat against me. No, that's not true. My eyes glimmered upon Matron Jew and the orange eyeball nestled in her palm, as she began swatting the air, and they form into a kaleidoscope of butterflies and flutter in different directions. She tricked us? Fellow divinity. It pains me to confess that I've resorted to using my powers to nudge my children towards the truth. I dread what might have happened to any of you if they continued providing shelter for this murderer. These idiots nearly got us killed! Wow, Madame's power is so beautiful. How could they just betray their own mother? Revere then cranes her neck to the left and yells, "Gods!" And suddenly, two vigilantes rush on stage and force Aster to their knees through telekinesis. Carnations? Heart pacing rapidly, I drop to my knees in crushing defeat. Everything feels so numb. Mom, please. Don't hurt my sister. I sob. I couldn't stop shaking. I just want to go home. But I don't even know where that is. Your words go unreceived. I glanced at Loki for a stroke of comfort. Every time his scales or even the slightest hint of his dragon features began to materialize on his skin, one of the guards would thrust their hand into a glyph of dispelling and sock him in the guts, preventing his transformation. You watch as Revere lightly caresses her glove along those 3 scars printed on Aster's face. It seems my last lesson didn't get across to you now, did it? That look on my sister's face was the face of defeat and acceptance for whatever was going to happen to them. Which is why I'm going to punish your dear brother instead. He became frozen, petrified in fear. He wanted to run, but you couldn't. What's worse is that nobody is holding you down with telekinesis either. Reigniting her prestidigitation, Revere spreads her arms to the crowd in grandiose and announces, Dearest Paradisans, long ago, Ani entrusted me with her power, the power of creation. As the beholder of this fine gift, I must continue to be fair and set the right example to you all. As such, as she begins to roll up her sleeves, my children seem to have forgotten our heavenly principles by welcoming not only an inferno into our gentle paradise, but after thorough investigation of their bedroom, have continued to practice their magic in secret. Please, allow me to show you what it means to be a demi-bloom without restraint, with the imperfections of sloth 60 years ago. What? What? Since when did we have the same powers? Yeah, enough is enough. Isn't that against the rules? Shut up, it's Madame Envy. She's doing this as a lesson. Punish that traitor. It feels so awful for Madame Envy, for her to break her own rules in order to slap some sense into Glitch. What an awful son. But the glory of Paradiso! Revere smiles with twisted delight to the unquestioned compliance of her audience, before turning her attention over to me. She lowers herself to my ear and whispers, Glitch, take off your outerwear. Okay, so in this next upcoming scene, there will be themes of abuse. If you would like to skip, I will probably just leave a timestamp somewhere, but yeah. Yeah. Okay, so play this and loop it begins to play. All that remained on my person was my underwear. I was exposed to the world, while those hideous scars covering my body caused the world's face to writhe with disgust. I am disgusting. Revere takes to her left and presses her heels upon a pressure plate as a glass tank emerges from the depths of the stage. She winds her attention to the crowd and begins. Our Gluttony was a brilliant inventor. So brilliant that she used her powers to create a factory reset, should any of us fall from grace. The smell of death fills my lungs as I watched on in horror. The enigma inhabiting that tank was a gruesome sight to behold, for how could I ever begin to explain what the hell it was? What is that? You're seeing this too, right? If there was one way I could describe it, it was like this strange enigma was composed entirely of zeros and ones, and the reader would then see this graphic. It's blank. And in the sparkle text, where am I? Rolling up her sleeves, she begins, Let this be a reminder of why we must never use our powers. And the reader would then see this graphic. Witness what destruction Demi-Bloom powers can leave in its wake when we create the very things that can harm us. Why we must always restrain and keep each other in line. Go on then. Hand me your marker. I did. She proceeds to stick the Expo marker's brush inside the glass as it phased through. Retracting her grasp, the tip of the brush surged with green and black static. Give me your arm. The second my body obeyed this final command, I couldn't seem to recall what happened after that. In those lingering moments of a drifting conscience, I wondered, is this what me and my sister were truly capable of? And in the sparkle text, Mom, please, it hurts. I could feel my strength desert my body and leave me here as it evaporated into the heavens. And in the sparkle text, Mom, stop! All the surrounding cries became distorted and imperceptible. Punish him! Punish him! Was there somebody yelling for him? Or yelling for me? Or was I the one that was yelling? I can't remember. My skin simmers with hatred. It hurts. I revoke any ties I have to this woman that claims to be my mother. It hurts. I detach all strings I have to the man who was never once in our lives to protect us and thought only of cleansing his anger through war. It hurts. I envy the world for watching me suffer on stage in horror and rigid fascination. You may have been the hero of another universe, but you most certainly weren't mine. It hurts. And then the sparkle text. But most of all, I loathe you. You who listens to my stories of suffering just to escape from your everyday living. How could one be so cruel? If I end up dying on this stage, I hope all my blood finds its way to Uncle. I should have hugged Nova and Meadow tighter, had I known better. I pray that my sister makes it safely out of Paradiso with the others. I hope my little brother ends up hatching into a beautiful bird one day. I wish I could have spent more time missing you, Loki. But most of all, what I'd give just to be in Blank's warm embrace one last time. When the suffering finally ceased, I remember her voice speaking into my ear. Please don't forget Starshine. I'm only doing this because I love you. And in the sparkle text, Glitch! Perhaps the next time we have this dance, do take extra precaution not to leave your little trinkets at the scene of the crime. And in the sparkle text, Glitch! May this be a lesson you never forget. No matter how hard I tried to hold on to my consciousness, it left me here with nothing to cling on. A vision flashed before my eyes, and the luminous threads of the universe beckoned me to observe closely. It was that mug of forget-me-nots I loved so dearly. It fell. All the stems, petals, and soil spilled everywhere, but I wasn't sure where. As the world dims to darkness and life begins to cease, that expo marker caressed me until there is nothing left of me. And the howling wind begins to play. And switching over to Aster's perspective, in their eyes, brother? My brother's eyes began to flutter as they dropped dead on stage. Their poignant silhouettes sprawled on the cold and unforgiving ground. With rising desperation in my voice, I repeatedly shouted their name. Loki's body was marred with countless blows. There he lay, motionless and defeated, as time swept by without regret. It was just me and this heartless witch. She idles there, with a malevolent grin, as she beheld the pain she had inflicted. And in the sparkle text, see to it that their wounds are not healed at the infirmary. Or anywhere, for that matter. In the distance, somewhere far from here, I could hear something cut through the wind. My eyes hopelessly searched for the source of that noise. In the dark blue horizon was this egg-born silhouette residing upon, Winter Tower. And okay, that would be the end of this chapter. Yeah, it's this was a lot to take in. But just me, things do get better. Things do get better. But yeah. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next one as we work towards the next few chapters to wrap up this very tragic story of glitches.